Now, on Full Force Nature. In Texas, a flash flood swallows a woman's car. Firefighters rush to save her life. One of the largest recorded tornadoes in history blows apart a building full of people. A quiet day in Texas takes a turn for the worse when a violent downburst causes 100-mile-an-hour winds. South of the border, a Category 4 hurricane throws debris and destroys buildings in a small beach town. And a powerful hailstorm in the Midwest
windshield was busted.
Catches drivers by surprise. Extreme weather, told by the people who survived, right now on Full Force Nature. Full Force Nature. At times, it's predictable. When we least expect it, the unthinkable happens in the blink of an eye. This looks like an innocent creek, but during one stormy November night, it suddenly turns into a raging river.
This was all underwater, from about the 45-mile-per-hour sign over here to well behind where I'm standing. We would be underwater right now where we're standing.
It's pouring in Austin, Texas, and Bull Creek is overflowing on a low crossing area over which cars can usually pass. But the volume of rainfall is creating flash flood conditions.
When a flash flood problem does arise, it can change dramatically. A creek that normally has just barely a trickle going down it in a short period of time can rise 10 feet.
In just 35 minutes, Bull Creek does just that, and it shows no signs of stopping.
I've been at this station for 16 years. I've never seen that volume of water.
One motorist who tries to avoid the floodwaters suddenly becomes swept up into them. The driver is completely trapped.
The caller that was on the scene noticed her floating down the side road and then came into the main current of the creek, and it slammed her up against the guardrail. At that time, the water was probably about right below the windows of her vehicle, and she couldn't get out.
Captain Johnson and the other firefighters spring into action. Time is clearly of the essence.
With a water rescue, we know that oftentimes seconds matter, and this time it really mattered. Very, very time critical incident.
Stay in your vehicle. Fire department is right here.
Fortunately, the fire station is only 100 yards away from the trapped woman.
Just sit down and do what they tell you. They will come out and get you and carry you back.
And by the time we'd gotten there, which was only a matter of a minute or two, the water was now well over the roof of the car. And when I first pulled up, all we could see was one head. We weren't sure what we had. The car was completely submerged. The water was well over the roof line at this time, in just a matter of the minute or two that it took us to get there.
She forces her convertible top open and stands in the driver's seat. She fights to stay above the water, but the current is gaining momentum.
It was an amazing amount of force that she was contending with. She was barely hanging on as it was, and the water was getting worse. So the situation was deteriorating rapidly, and we knew we had to do something very quickly. She was about 100 feet from the side we were on, and using the aerial ladder to reach out to her and try and bring her up onto the ladder was about the only option that we had.
They use every bit of the ladder's 105 feet. But time is running out.
The water was rising, and she couldn't hold on to the car anymore, and it would either grab the ladder or get washed downstream. And that's why she grabbed the ladder. So when the two firefighters got out there, they were able to just grab her and hoist her up onto the ladder.
Yeah, they have her out of the water. Finally.
The woman survives the ordeal, and Captain Johnson knows how lucky she is.
A lot of things went right for us that day, and for the lady. She was able to force the roof open. If she hadn't been able to do that, she would not have made it.
When nature struck, It took the quick action of local rescue teams and the cool head of the driver to avert catastrophe. But when chasers are on the hunt for tornadoes, they have no one to help them but themselves.
Oh, big tornado! Gee, there's a big tornado on the ground.
Sometimes the tables are turned on the storm chasers. That's what happened to Jim Bishop when he found himself pursued by a ferocious Nebraska tornado with nearly lethal consequences.
As a storm chaser, you want to put yourself in the tornado's path, but you want to get out of it, you know, in plenty of time.
It's heading for us.
I'm videotaping due south, and at this point, the tornado is 2.5 miles wide. So right now, it's just a black wedge.
Just 25 miles southwest of Lincoln, Nebraska, this enormous tornado is packing winds estimated in excess of 200 miles an hour.
It's cutting us off.
Okay.
It's cutting us off. Our road goes south.
We're gonna head back to town. Yeah,
Go south, guys.
listen to that thing roar. Okay, it's gonna.
Don't panic.
Our escape route wasn't gonna work. We had to choose another one, which was dangerous, but much more safe than staying in the path of the tornado.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Keep on going, Simon. Just keep on going. Keep on going.
The back right windshield, it actually went out. It cracked. Some piece of debris hit it.
I'm getting out of here.
With the massive F4 tornado nipping at their heels, Jim and his friends frantically look for shelter in the town of Wilbur, Nebraska.
Get out! Get out! Get out of the car!
They take refuge in an empty building, but even that can't protect them from the tornado's violent winds.
I held the camera as steady as I could, and what's going through my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if this thing hits us, we're screwed, basically. Bottom line, there was no way that I was gonna miss out on the video opportunity, because I'm already there.
Watch what happens as the camera keeps rolling. The front of the building blows apart.
Within 2 or 3 seconds, it was somewhat like an explosion. Boom! You could tell that there was a circulation hitting us because the things that were hanging down from the ceiling in the front of the building actually were forced forward, like they were being sucked in, and all the bricks from the top of the building came crashing down.
You guys okay?
You okay, Jim?
Fine.
We were taking probably the most precautions we could. That was probably the safest thing to do, and it hit us in the behind.
Luckily, the storm chasers were in the back of the building when the tornado struck. They walked out without a scratch. The same can't be said for their car,
Oh my! Floor got taken off.
which bears the scars of the devastating tornado.
As a storm chaser, it's a sobering experience to have a storm, you know, kind of chase you. After you're chasing it, you become the chasee, I guess. You know, you have to take refuge in a building, and a tornado hits you. It makes you really appreciate severe weather and really have a lot of respect for Mother Nature.
Coming up on Full Force Nature, when buildings come crashing down under the weight of Hurricane Kenna, survival will depend on blind luck. But first, a Texas-sized windstorm comes out of nowhere and leaves its mark. Welcome back to Full Force Nature. Deep in the heart of Texas, a summer storm unleashes its fury on the town of Hudson Oaks, just west of Fort Worth. It takes no prisoners. Without warning, winds are thrust downward from a thunderstorm and whip up to an estimated 100 miles per hour.
I pulled over into the gas station so I could get some kind of shelter. Within, I'd say, 10 seconds of putting the car in park, this first blast of wind came through.
Mike Tice captures this amazing footage as the roof of a gas station is literally torn off. Nearby, transformers explode, showering sparks below. The gas station owner steps outside in disbelief, trying to understand what just happened.
Everybody okay?
The violent downburst is gone in a matter of seconds, but has left lasting memories for those who witnessed its power.
There was one moment, probably the scariest moment. It was real quick, but I had peeked around the corner and there was this gigantic green dumpster rolling end over end towards my direction.
Jet aircraft at a nearby naval air station are spun around and thrown across the base. Damage from wind, hail, and flash flooding throughout the Fort Worth area total in the millions of dollars.
This particular downburst event is just another example of Mother Nature can strike at any time.
Coming up on Full Force Nature, a hailstorm one man will never forget completely totals his car. But first, Hurricane Kenna hits a small beach town like a wrecking ball. You're watching Full Force Nature. Hurricanes offer a unique menace to coastal areas, packing a quadruple threat of high winds, heavy rain, huge surf, and extreme surge. They can devastate areas on an enormous scale. In the small village of Hidalgo, just south of Mazatlan on the Pacific coast of Mexico, residents have no idea that the most powerful storm to hit the area in 40 years is about to make landfall. There are reports that one-time Category 5 Hurricane Kenna is just offshore and moving in their direction fast. For vacationing New Zealand filmmaker Jeff Mackley, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to experience a storm of this magnitude.
Here we have the latest satellite pictures just in. You can see the eye right there, very defined eye, very small eye. This is a small but very intense storm. So getting anywhere close to the eye of that thing is going to be a hell of a ride. We've got approximately 12 hours to go. It's all going to happen tomorrow morning. Beautiful looking thing, but deadly.
Tomorrow is going to be a very dangerous day indeed. The most dangerous place on Earth.
And that's exactly where Jeff is headed, into the middle of the danger zone, the village of Hidalgo. It's predicted to be ground zero for what's left of Hurricane Kenna. As soon as he arrives, so does the destruction. Torrential rain and hail are followed by raging winds, reaching over 60 miles an hour. Jeff films under what he hopes is the safety of a concrete balcony. Suddenly, the roof blows off a nearby building and hits a passing car. And debris continues to rain down in all directions. Jeff warns people to be careful.
Go, run away. Oh dear, he's dead.
Watch as the roof falls down right on the spot where the man was just standing. He moves just in time. But now, Jeff's own safety is in jeopardy.
Bit of a problem here. We've got, whoa! The whole place is falling everywhere. This is a very serious hurricane. This place is blowing to bits. Roofing iron. This is an extremely dangerous situation here.
Jeff is forced to get back into his car for protection.
It's pretty wild out here. I dare not leave the car in case I get killed. Jammed up behind a truck at the moment. The truck is stopping most of the debris. The truck has already rammed backwards into my car because the wind's actually blowing it. I saw one car a few minutes ago, it blew around the corner and there was no one in it. It's pretty wild.
If you look again, you'll see there is no driver of this car. The winds alone are moving it down the street.
Hopefully the eye will show up shortly and give me a few minutes to get the hell out of here.
When the wind seems to die down a bit, Jeff gets back out and moves the camera closer to the wall, under an overhang for protection. But he may be too late. The roof from the third story collapses on top of him. Once Kenna passes, Jeff goes back to where he was standing and makes a startling discovery.
So I was up against that orange door there, and this happened. A couple of 100 tons of debris. Tripod marks the position where I was standing and where the camera was positioned. As you can see, it's really the only clear spot. Basically, this whole third story up here that was obviously badly built, and it fell down. Just to give you another view of all this, here's all the debris that fell down, and here's the tripod way in here. A lot of heavy stuff falling down here, but there it is, the only spot with no debris.
It was a close call, and Jeff lucks out. But many others do not. Mexican authorities report 4 deaths from Kenna. Hundreds more are injured from flying debris and falling masonry. Many of the survivors in the village of Hidalgo soon venture back outside and stare in awe at the destruction Hurricane Kenna produced. Streets are flooded and littered with flattened trees and power lines. Government officials rush in to help coordinate the cleanup. Some residents are forced to clear fallen buildings by hand. Along State Highway 15, semi-trailers are overturned, blocking key routes to the areas in need. All told, there was nearly $50 million in damage. In the months following, the name Kenna would be retired by the National Weather Service, never to be assigned to any future storms.
Oh dear, he's dead.
When full force nature returns, a drive down a Nebraska highway turns into a one-way trip to the junkyard. When monster hail comes crashing down. Welcome back to Full Force Nature. When big weather erupts, chasers flock to witness nature's power. Sometimes they wish they'd stayed home. Veteran storm photographer Jim Leonard has seen a lot of severe weather. But nothing prepared him for what he would encounter outside Ogallala, Nebraska. It's late in June, and Jim is driving in the wake of a supercell thunderstorm. Soon, the sky turns dark, and the first bits of hail start to come down. But it's quickly becoming more than he bargained for.
I like seeing big hail, but I always try to find a place I can get under cover. But if you're out in open country, it's impossible.
In seconds, baseball-sized hail begins to crash down to earth. Glass is shattering, and the car is being rocked by the falling ice.
God!
Jim scans the road, desperate for cover. There's nothing he can do but watch in horror. Jim pulls his camera from the dashboard mount before the hail smashes the windshield above it.
The windshield is busted. Ah! Car is being destroyed.
It was so intense. You couldn't even hear anything other than the sound of these hailstones and glass breaking and glass shards flying into my face. So I had to put my sunglasses on just to protect my eyes.
Ah!
Confused and panicked, Jim tries to assess what's happening.
These are probably 5-inch hailstones hitting this car right now.
Well, it sounds like a madman with a sledgehammer or big rocks, you know, falling down on my car.
After an eternal 20 minutes, the supersized hail finally lets up. Jim gets out of his battered car to assess the damage. The roof is riddled with deep dents. And the windows are in shatters.
There's what did it, right there.
It totally destroyed the body of the car and the windshield. It was well beyond any repair. That car was just scrap metal after that storm.
But the car has served its purpose. It probably saved Jim's life.
Oh, it's by far safer in the car. If you're outside in a storm like that, you're going to get killed. It's like being hit by a rock at 100 miles an hour.
That's all for this edition. Tune in next time for even more amazing encounters with weather on Full Force Nature. To be sure that you're prepared for the full force of nature, your local forecast is next, right here on the Weather Channel.